Hey, what's up everybody? Video 44 coming at you another video. All right, stop my workout. I'm almost done with it, but say a few things. First of all, would I rather have DeJounte Murray than Austin Reaves? In a nutshell, probably. I think DeJounte Murray's proven to be a guy that's made an all-star team. Austin Reaves is still working on his development. He was a 4-year guy when we brought him in, so you're not really sure how high of a jump or a leap he can make. But I think with the elements that Austin has on the offensive end, I think he's a good as bet as anybody to have a better season than he did last year. I just thought that was a bad season. So if I'm assessing his overall, last season is not what I think he's going to be most of the time. I think it was a bad season for Austin. With that being said, in it being a bad season, he didn't miss a single game. He played all 82. So that, for a team that has the injury issues that we had, is something to really take into account. DeJounte Murray gonna play 82 games this year? Did he play 82 games last year? Like, these are the type of things that we really have to assess. Anything that you didn't like from Austin Reaves, you best believe you had him on the floor every game, and that matters. Another thing, for those who think it's doom and gloom that we didn't make any moves because they're assessing this team is not good enough, it ain't good enough. It ain't good enough to win a championship. However, the dynamic of last year, just like I said about Austin Reaves, probably not the right way to look at this particular unit. Why? Couple of things. One, you didn't have Vanderbilt for a good 3/4 of the season. You didn't have Gabe Vincent for even more than that. And you didn't have Dalton Knecht last year, who's actually a lottery pick, who's probably capable of scoring 30 points in a game. So that right there means you've upgraded in some areas to a sense that you're just going to be fully healthy in theory, unless you have more injury issues. But you should be healthy. You didn't, and you had coach using people the wrong way, so that cost you a lot of opportunities at wins. You talk about 5 power forwards on the floor at once because this dude couldn't figure out how to put together a simple unit that could play basketball. That cost you. So if I'm assessing our overall based on last year's unit with the injury issues and the stupid coach, with all due respect, then of course I'm not looking at this correctly because we don't have the same coach who's not going to utilize the team the same way. You have guys who were younger like Austin Reaves, Rui Hachimura, no, I keep wanting to say Cam Christie. That's his brother in Clipperland. Max Christie, who wasn't even utilized properly. Those guys are going to be a year older, which means they're ascending in talent level in their overall game. They're getting better. It's not like they're capped off at who they are. Some of our players still have upside, and I think that the age of our team is overstated in the sense that we do have developing players in solidified roles, which means from year to year, they should essentially get better. You should have a better Rui Hachimura this year. You should have a better Austin Reaves this year. You should have a better Max Christie this year. Some of these dudes, they're still becoming who they're becoming. So when you assess that, you need to understand that the chance of these guys making a jump or being more cohesive together because they've all played with one another last year, which is something that we don't take into account when we consider how important continuity is. You think about when the Denver Nuggets won the championship, they were together for like 7 years. That matters. That matters. These guys know each other better than they did last year. Some of these guys have been playing with one another for a while, like Vanderbilt and D'Angelo Russell, but the point is the unit we have is coming back knowing itself better than it did the year before, with enough young players in prominent roles to where they're still getting better. So I don't view this thing the way y'all do. I just don't. I'm a different kind of guy when it comes to this type of stuff because I've been watching so much of it for so damn long. When it really comes down to it, Gabe Vincent is going to have a prominent role in theory if we don't trade him away. And we didn't even have him last year. Vanderbilt, hopefully he's having a good offseason, healing from the foot and getting in shape. Hopefully he'll have a more healthy season. You know, so it's like those are prominent pieces. That's a lot of defense that we weren't able to have on the floor last year. And as a result, we were a bad defensive team for a good portion of the season. And a very good offensive team a good portion of the season. So it's like you got a whole new coach controlling the roster, you guys. It's not going to be the same team. When you start studying some of the stuff that went wrong last year, a good portion of it had to do with Darvin Ham's choices, man. To start and play Taurean Prince 35 minutes a game to start the season. You had your lesser stuff on the floor and leaning into it as if it was going to help you win. That ain't going to be what Coach Redick is going to do. You're going to have Max Christie in some of those situations. You're going to have Dalton Knecht in some of them situations. Those are better players, and we know it. And for those who don't understand that Dalton Knecht's a better player, you're going to find out he's a lot better than Taurean. on the offensive end, he's a lot more effective. So, you know, and not to mention that I think some of the guys that we got in the summer league, particularly that French dude, he's going to be somebody that we probably end up having in regular rotation by the end of the season. That dude is a real asset. And like I said, I watched 18 minutes of highlights on him, so I think I know who he's going to be. To a degree, hopefully he has a good summer league, stays healthy, because the knee injury is what it is that we're paying attention to there with that particular player. Amel I can't think of his name, but Amel, I believe is his first name. That player there, that's a dude for real. And so a lot of Laker fans don't really know what they have yet, and maybe I don't either, because we got to see these guys actually make the team and have a good summer league. But that dude is a problem. If the highlights or anything that I saw, that's somebody that you can put in rotation and have play your 4 or 5, and he's going to help a lot. So, you know, we found another gem, and I don't think people even know it. So to me, it's like our spacing should be better. Our rotation should be much better. We're not leaning into, you know, leaning on Taurean Prince as much as we are leaning on a lottery pick that just so happened to fall to us at 17 in Dalton Knecht, who is an uber scorer, man. An uber scorer. He is a scorer. And you want him taking at least 8 shots a night. And as he develops 15 shots a night, he's one of those. So I don't think Laker fans really know what they have yet, and that's okay because we ain't seen it run around. But to say that we're doom and gloom because we're bringing back the same roster, you're bringing back the same roster, but it's not going to be utilized the same way. And some of what made it bad was the fact that some of it was not healthy. Those guys should be healthy this year. So you're going to have a better idea of what the roster is based on the more fullness of it actually being on the floor and it being utilized better, which really matters. Now, will we have a healthy AD and Bron as we did last year? That's probably not the greatest bet there. Are they going to play 70-plus games this season? I ain't going to bet on that. And that's where it evens out in my mind. We probably have healthier role players, not so healthy core, but hopefully it doesn't pan out that way at all. But whatever the case may be, I wasn't against what the team was last year. I just understood that we were removing key pieces that made us not so good. You remove Gabe Vincent and you remove Jared Vanderbilt, and your team doesn't look the same. That's a lot of perimeter defense. That's a lot of connective pieces, guys that make plays for other people. That stuff being removed was something that needs to be taken into account. Darvin Ham leaning on Taurean, not playing Max Christie, all that needs to be realized in your assessment of what this team was last year versus what it should be this year. So no, it's not the worst thing in the world coming back with the same roster. I need us to get a center, but I don't think it takes more than a $2 million trade to do that. You could trade for a Deron Sharp and have that filled. Maybe I want to upgrade my point guard position, but if the point guard I'm bringing in can't catch and shoot, then he's not going to be a good fit for us. That's the problem with DeJounte Murray. To a point, that might be the problem with Bronny James, because they're not good catch and shoot play. They're not good off the ball. In that situation, and you need LeBron James and Anthony Davis and Austin Reeves to be able to pass to people who can actually shoot off the catch. So does DeJounte fit as well as people think he does? Is he a star? Yes. Is he going to fit as well as people think he does? Not if you're used to D'Angelo Russell catching and shooting and him not being able to. No, that's going to create a dynamic that makes you left offensively. So there's a lot of nuances that come together to make a team what it is. And if you remove key pieces from that team all year long and then don't acknowledge that that's what it is, or don't recognize that that's what it is, then of course you're going to think bringing back the same team is bad because you expect it to perform the same way it did last year. It's not going to, because you got more of it on the floor this year in theory. And young guys are getting better. And you have plenty of young guys in prominent roles that need to get better. Jalen Hood-Schifino, I'd like to think that Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to be worked into the equation. Did you have him involved in anything last year? No, everybody thinks he's the worst player in the world. So obviously whatever he does is going to be an upgrade from last year, and he's only 20 years old. So what that means is we drafted him as a freshman. He's still got a lot of development to do. He can pop at any moment. Same thing with Max Lewis. Y'all remember seeing Max Lewis on the floor? Hell no, he didn't play at all last year. He was in the G League working on his game. He's going to be a prominent role player on our team, I'd imagine, along with Max Christie. So it's like you got all these elements that you don't even realize you have, Laker fans. A lot of you don't even realize that you got new stuff. that you ain't seen. You could put a lineup on the floor with Max Lewis, Jalen Hood-Schifino, the Emil Truo dude, whatever his name is, Vanderbilt, and Gabe Vincent, and see something on the floor that you didn't see last year without making any trades. Because none of those guys played last year for the most part. Max Christie, like, you got players you've never seen. Connect. This is not the same team, essentially, is what I'm trying to express to people. For those who are worried about we bringing back the same roster and that being unacceptable, those people are not realizing how much of what you didn't have on the floor affected what it is you saw and how bad the coach utilized that roster, for which most coaches would never use them that way. You're never going to see some of those problems you had last year. It's like giving the controller to a different person when you're playing video games. You know what I'm saying? It ain't going to be the same team. You're going to use it a different way. Hopefully better. So that's what I wanted to say, man. Look, am I happy the Lakers weren't able to improve this roster? No, but there's never a year where I'm not happy we're not able to improve our roster. We could have a championship team, and I'm going to want to put Wembanyama on it. This ain't that much different for me than that. I don't think there was a good move to make. And most importantly, I don't think I saw my full team last year at all. And we were still good enough to make the playoffs. So imagine if we had the full team all year long with a good coach who wasn't going to scramble up the rotation in such a way that brought the worst of us to the front of the line. It would be so much better. Now, are we going to be able to guard Jokic? That's the problem. You can't guard Jokic. But is a $2 million center going to help me guard Jokic? No. If trading away 2 picks to bring in some solid center going to be able to guard Jokic? Hell no. Nobody can guard Jokic. Nobody can guard Joel. So these are things, it's like you're not going to solve that problem by trying to address it with a big body necessarily. You give yourself a better chance, but those guys going to get cooked like everybody else. So all in all, I just think the fullness of what our team looks like is not something that you can actually say that you've seen. You ain't seen it. You ain't seen it. And so that's what it comes down to. I thought last year's team going into the summertime was an exciting bunch. Some are saying the West got better. I think the West moved laterally, if I'm being honest with you. Some teams got better, some teams got worse. I think it equates to being the same West in my mind. I don't think the West got better. I really don't. And you talk about the Clippers losing Paul George, him going back east. Klay Thompson going to the Dallas Mavericks. And then them losing Derrick Jones Jr. and replacing him with some role player from New Orleans, who I know ain't going to be what they want him to be at all. You know, it's not what it was, man. You do have Memphis getting better, New Orleans, in theory, getting better. Minnesota got an exciting young prospect that they've thrown into their situation, so I think they've gotten better. Obviously, OKC made some really good decisions with all that they have that they did not mortgage. They're a team that should likely be in the finals this year. So, yeah, did the West have teams improve? Yes. And the West had teams bottom out. Just the same. Golden State and Clippers should probably be out the mix now. They're not going to be good enough to contend anymore. So you add 2, remove 2 kind of thing. It's just lateral. It's the same West, just different teams. But it's no more or no less strong than it was last year, in my opinion. It really ain't. And I think a lot of that had to do with the aprons and all that. You couldn't really make a lot of moves. There's still a lot that can be done. I do think that. But if you ask me which conference actually got better, it was the East. The East got better at the top. The bottom teams still suck. But they got more top teams like Philly and New York entering the fray. And you don't expect that the Pacers got any worse. You don't expect that Boston got any worse. So they got a better conference just off the strength of how bad they were and how much certain teams kind of stepped themselves into a position where they look like contenders. But the West, Golden State's gone. Clippers are gone. Who else? It was another team that I think of that probably got a lot worse. I don't personally think Dallas got better. I really don't. Bringing in Klay Thompson, removing Green, removing Derrick Jones Jr., you got significantly worse perimeter defensively. That point of attack defense is gone. You really needed Derrick Jones Jr., whether you know it or not, if you're Dallas. You really needed him. And so that I don't think they come back. I think they kind of look more like they did the year before last when they didn't have any defense in the paint, just in a different way. Now they have no perimeter defense. They got all the defense in the paint. Derek Lively's down there. He's going to be a year older. You know, Gafford is also a year older. You like that for that team. PJ's in place now with a year under his belt and some finals experience. So that, you know, they're going to be in the mix. But as far as me having them coming out of the West, I didn't have them coming out of the West last year. I thought they overachieved. You remove that Derrick Jones Jr. piece, and you bring in Wash Clay. Nah, that's not. Nah, you didn't get that much better, fam. No, you did not. But a lot of that, is determined by how much better shape Luka comes in. If he comes in shape, he's going to probably be an MVP candidate of the highest order. And he can help them make a difference if he comes in tip-top shape and has a monstrous season. He is what steamrolls their improvement. So that's kind of how I look at that. Of course, Kyrie Irving has to have a healthy season, but Kyrie's Kyrie, and he's aging. He's getting a year older, and that's not necessarily a good thing once you hit the top, you know, start hitting your 30s. So for me, it's like, Memphis is real. That's who we need to realize that wasn't part of nothing that's going to be part of something this year. They in it. They in it to win it this year. And like I said, New Orleans, I think, is a team that you need to consider got a lot better in the Western Conference. But just the same, you remove the Clippers and the Golden State Warriors. I just think the Warriors made all types of role-playing moves that should make them a nice little puncher team. But they're out of here. They're going to need Steph Curry to play MVP ball for them to even make the playoffs. And with the Clippers, same thing. I think they made some really nice role-playing moves, but you lost a whole Paul George. So KPJ going to have to play out of his mind. You know, James Harden going to have to run back the clock. You need Bamba and all those guys to really come together to make a hell of a unit. And even then, what's their ceiling? For me, if I'm being real, their ceiling is playing tournament. Because I'm already writing Kawhi Leonard off to miss about 50 games because that's what he does. So they out of here. The Clippers they're not going to be nobody this year. So it's like 2 in, 2 out. Same West. And we're better. Because we're going to not have an injury-riddled season, hopefully. So we're a better team. So it's like, I'm not worried, man. I'm not worried. I never thought we were a championship caliber team anyway. We're not going to beat OKC. They definitely better, but they were top of the West last year. Minnesota got better, but they were top of the West last year. So like, Denver got worse. To be honest with you, Denver got worse. I'm not going to say they exit in the playoff picture, though. I don't think that. But you moving KCP out of the situation, talking about bringing in Russell Westbrook, that's a team that needs to react to the moves that have been made around them. Because if they don't, they're in the trouble that people think the Lakers are in. Denver. Yes. So, yeah, man. Look, as a Laker fan, I'm happy we haven't done anything that would ultimately mortgage our future. I'm happy LeBron James is ultimately with our team. We didn't lose him for nothing. We won free agency because we got the best prospect in free agency, in LeBron James. None of them dudes better than him. They weren't. So for those who were saying Rob Pelinka did a bad job, you re-signed LeBron James. He didn't leave. So that was the best thing on the damn market, if you ask me. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say, man. Just give some people a little bit of reality for those who think it's doom and gloom because we didn't make moves. Not every move needs to be made. Some moves make you worse. In the long term, some moves aren't what they cracked up to be, especially with the price tag being souped up on them. No, you don't need to do none of that. So we'll see what the Lakers decide to do. Oh, and one more thing, player options. There's a balanced how I'm looking at that. I'm not happy that we gave away so many player options to players like Christian Wood and Cam Reddish. Player options are something that really hurt us because now there's a new thing, as Trevor Lane just told us on his podcast, that puts it so that if you want to trade 2 minimum players at the same time, if they have player options, you're unable to. I think that's how he described it. So they restricted us in that way. You can't move 2 minimum guys in the same trade. You got to make separate trades if you want to do that. I'm pretty sure that's pretty expensive to do. So in a sense, you don't want guys to have player options that they're opting in and you want them off your team. You're kind of stuck with them. It's hard to move them. But when it comes to a guy like Max Christie, who's like at the beginning of his development stage, and we love having him, and he's still going to be young at the end of the contract, and he probably doesn't sign it if he doesn't have a player option on it. I think in that situation, the player option is not the worst thing in the world. Because at the end of that contract, you don't necessarily want him to leave. So if he opts in, you're happy he did if he turns into what it is that we expect him to. So it's like, am I mad that we put a player option on Max Christie's contract? Not his contract. Nah, not his contract. Because his contract is one that I'd hope he'd opt in. You know, at the end of that process, I don't want him to leave. So, would it be better if it were a team option? It's always better if it's a team option if you're a team person like me. If you're not a player fan, it's always best that your team have the ability to do or not do. But if it's the difference between keeping a prospect that you want to keep, a guy that's ultimately going to be intricate to our situation this year, which Max Christie most definitely will be, then if that's what it takes to keep him, that's what you do. No different than any other dollar amount that you probably would rather not have to pay a guy. It's what you got to do. It's the cost of doing the business. So I'd prefer player options not be attached to players that I don't want to see stay. For guys who I do want to see stay, I prefer to have the team option. But if it's what it's required to keep them, then I'm happy with the player option. So that's what I want to say about that, man. There's a balance to all of it. It's not good to give away player options to trash. But if it's a good player, then it's fine. So I think Max Christie's a good player. And I would love to have him at the end of that contract because he's still going to be extra young at the end of the contract. So it works out in that way. So that's pretty much what I got to say, man. Get back to my workout. BDF44, I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.